The Philippines and the United States held their first bilateral talks in years as President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. met with U.S. President Joe Biden at the sidelines of the UN General Assembly.
At the center of their meeting are issues on the South China Sea, as well as the United States defense commitment to the Philippines. Marlene Alcaide with the big story.
Despite their busy schedule, U.S. President Joe Biden met with President Bongbong Marcos at the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly in New York.
We're very happy for the opportunity to meet with you despite the schedules that we both have to deal with.
You came a little further than I did.
Philippine foreign.
In a press conference ahead of their meeting, the two leaders acknowledged the decades-long alliance between their countries.
The relationship between the United States and the Philippines, to state the obvious, has very deep roots. We've had some rocky times, but the fact is it's a critical relationship from our perspective.
We have always considered the United States our partner, our ally, and our friend.
Among the topics discussed by Marcos Jr. and Biden is the ongoing tensions at the South China Sea.
I expect we'll discuss the South China Sea and disputes in critical global throughway. I've spent a lot of time with not only the President of China but others about the international waters and how they have to be respected.
Marcos, in return, said the Philippines recognizes the U.S. crucial role in maintaining peace in the ASEAN region.
The role of the United States in maintaining the peace in our region is something that is much appreciated by all the countries, the Philippines especially.
U.S. President Biden also reaffirmed the U.S. ironclad commitment to the Mutual Defense Treaty. This treaty compels the U.S. and the Philippines to come for each other's defense if one is under attack. Marcos also took the opportunity to thank the U.S. for donating COVID-19 vaccines to the Philippines.
With the provision of up to 35, almost 36 million doses of vaccines very early on, ahead of some of the other countries, and for that we are very grateful.
Other topics covered by the bilateral talks include energy security, climate action, and food security. Currently, the President and his economic team are pursuing more foreign investments from the U.S. According to officials, there are already exploratory talks with various companies. A modular power plant firm, for one, has expressed interest to invest in the Philippines. Such investments are expected to generate more jobs for Filipinos. For News 5, Marlene Alcaide, we are One News.
To talk to us more about Marcos's bilateral meeting with U.S. President Joe Biden, as well as the economic briefing, we have with us on the show Philippine Star reporter Alexis Romero, and he's reporting live from New York. Welcome to the big story.
Thank you for having me.
Alexis, first of all, can you describe to us the atmosphere in the room? We know that when it comes to high-level meetings like this, everything matters, from how brief it was, the posturing, the gestures, the how friendly the two presidents were to each other. Can you describe to us the meeting?
Well, it was very cordial, no? Based on the video materials provided by both sides. It was very cordial, and you can see that both nations really have deep relationship, very strong relationship. But what's interesting is this is the first time that in 6 years that a U.S. or a Philippine leader visited the U.S. We have to remember the fact that President Rodrigo Duterte, Marcos' predecessors, did not visit the U.S. because of his, anti-U.S. sentiments. But it's really the first time in 6 years that a Philippine leader visits the United States, the traditional ally of the Philippines. So you can see there's nothing really unusual, nothing really extraordinary about the scenario, about the environment based on the materials handed to us. But you can see the reaffirming of the friendship, and if you want to think of it this way, it can also be somehow a reset, some form of a restating of alliance that was faced or faced certain uncertainties during the time of Duterte, who was known for his anti-US sentiments. But in general, it was very friendly. It's something that you will expect between two allies, between two friends who have been supporting each other for several years, even decades. So it's a friendly meeting that aims to reaffirm existing partnerships, and at the same time, it's a way of saying, hey, we're still allies despite what happened in the past 6 years, the rocky road that the relationship of these two countries had to endure or had to experience during the past administration.
Okay. Now, Alexis, was there anything remarkable as they reset these conversations, friendlier conversations? Nonetheless, was there anything notable or even remarkable in the things they talked about? For example, South China Sea, did that come up? And speaking of President Duterte, one of the thorns at the side of the U.S.-Philippine relations, of course, during his time was human rights. So South China Sea, human rights, did those come up? And did anything else notable come up?
Okay, regarding the notable, what's striking is President Marcos' description of the president: partner, friend, ally. So, using those three, what we call synonymous terms, so it's really telling. It's like telling them, okay, we're really friends. Of course, it's diplomatic language, no? But given the context in the past 6 years, it's something that you can view as, well, not really unusual given the context, but something that strengthens or reaffirms what they have, the Philippines and the U.S., in the past few years or even decades, no, of relationship. Now, with regard to South China Sea, there was a mention of South China Sea from the materials provided by the White House. The materials provided by the White House explicitly stated that the two leaders talked about the issue and they affirmed the importance of freedom of navigation. Interestingly, those statements were hardly tackled in Philippine materials provided by Malacanang. But another interesting thing is the South China Sea was not extensively discussed in the press materials. Of course, we all know that maybe these two leaders, they probably talked about the dispute. But with regard to giving public information, there was a mere mention of South China Sea and freedom of navigation, and you have President Marcos saying that we value your role as a peacemaker in the region, but the particulars, nothing, not much. There was not even a mention of China or any recent incident in the South China Sea. So we all know that they discussed it, but the sharing of information is another thing. They mentioned it in their press materials, but not much details. And with regard to human rights, same thing. President Biden said in his press conference before the talk or the bilateral talk, he wanted to discuss human rights. And when the White House came up with its press statement about it, they also discussed basically a restating that they talked about human rights. But that's just about it. Even the Philippine side, well, I can remember this because I was the one who asked Press Secretary Angeles yesterday, what was discussed about human rights? Well, what I got was this response. It's one of the main concepts or pillars under the Indo-Pacific economic framework, but nothing more than that. Nothing really specific about human rights issues or abuses, not even a mention of atrocities during the previous administration's drug war. Nothing really. What we have are just restating that, okay, this is discussed. But beyond that, at least what was shared to the press, not much details.
Okay. Maraming salamat, Alexis Romero, for those information as well as remaining questions. Alexis Romero is a reporter at the Philippine Star. Let's get some more insights on what this meeting between President Marcos and U.S. President Joe Biden means for foreign relations and defense security here in the Philippines. Joining us live here in the studio, One News Defense Editor Manny Mogato. Manny, gandang gabi.
Good evening.
So, kanina pinag-usapan natin, of course, a lot of this was about foreign relations, and a lot of the foreign relations was also about the United States. The President Marcos, of course, says he will continue an independent foreign policy, pero hindi naman kaila we needed to rebalance also that
We are
independence.
friends to everybody.
Oo, di ba? But anong nakita mo dito sa visit niya sa UN in general at saka itong pagtatagpo nila ni President Joe Biden?
Basically, it's very symbolic. No? Because 6 years under Duterte,
Wala.
we don't have any engagement with the U.S. Duterte never set foot on U.S. soil for 6 years. And we have President Marcos, in less than 3 months, he was in New York and met with Joe Biden. And they had a phone call, no? In May. So it's very symbolic. So are we asking, are we back in each other's arms?
Well, it does look very familiar. Parang ganyan lang naman yung mga
Yeah,
tono ng
oo.
mga past presidents,
Pero,
except for Duterte.
Pero actually, the U.S. never left us. No? Kasi even if Duterte tried to
Shoo them away.
shoot them away, terminate BFA, stop the military from having exercises in the South China Sea, the U.S. was still there. And in fact, during Trump's administration, they shifted their policy to supporting the Philippine position on the arbitral ruling. Malaki yun, no? And then they gave us so many equipment, no? I think they have given us about $600 million, no? Especially mga drones and other equipment. So hindi tayo iniwan ng US, no? And we have to thank Teddy Boy Locsin and Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana for straightening up. No? Kasi si Duterte, his rhetorics are pro-China, pro-Russia, pero
Even anti-American.
anti-American. Pero the relationship between the US and the Philippines remain the same.
Doon po sa meeting na yun, do you think it's just President Marcos trying to get back to the middle? Or do you think by calling the U.S. the partner, ally, and friend, we're moving towards the United States? And what does this mean?
It's just a reaffirmation of the relationship that we have with the US. Kasi talaga namang ironclad ang relationship ng Pilipinas at ng US.
Hindi ba
Okay.
magtatampo si China?
Well, dapat hindi sila magtampo kung alam nila yung foreign policy natin. No? Kasi talaga namang pro-US tayo eh. No?
Hindi naman talaga
Naiba lang tayo nung kay Duterte dahil
Pero ano yung direction ngayon nung alyansang yon? For example, South China Sea, kanina sinabi nga ni Alexis Romero ng Philippine Star, nabanggit, wala naman tayong detalye.
Well, kasi mas kailangan tayo ng Amerika kaysa kailangan natin ng Amerika. Because of Taiwan, no? In the past few weeks, no? After Nancy Pelosi visited Taipei, no? Nakita niyo na there was tension in the area. So nagkakagrian, no? So in that case, if the US needed support in the Taiwan Straits, they needed the Philippines because nandito yung base nila eh, no? I think one of the discussion na hindi lang sinabi is that US is trying to request for more access in bases in the Philippines.
Nako, mahababang usapan din yan mismo.
Yan,
Diba? Parang we will have to unbundle that. Maybe sa Chiefs, imbitahin natin para mahaba yung usapan. Maraming salamat for your insights. One News Defense Editor Manny Mogato.
Thank you.